The following program is rated 14+ and is not intended for younger audiences. It includes violence, nudity, and mature subject matter. Please know the music in this project is not owned by SC Entertainment. The music belongs to its rightful owners and artists. Viewer discretion is advised. We see police swarming the streets with guns, as we see them having to gun down people that are firing back at the police, as we see them firing back at them as they have no other choice but to gun them down. As we see these riots in the streets, as the fires are spreading. We see a fair distance away, as we see this man named Casey steps out of the van and says, "Oh my god, the whole city's gone mental." Another agent says, "These are everywhere. What the hell do these people want?" Casey says, "I don't know." Damn it. He answers his phone and says, "Yeah. Okay. Alright. Yeah, I'll let him know." Casey then hangs up and just says, "I just got word from Vic." The woman says, "Well, what did they say?" Casey says, "Apparently Mr. Casher was just brutally executed in Belchman prison about an hour ago. What the hell is going on? I don't know who this family is, but whoever they are, I'm finding them, and I'm bringing them in one by one. I want answers on this. You got that?" They all nod, and he says, "Come on, let's go." We see a man sitting in a dark living room in his house, smoking a cigarette. As we hear over the TV,
"After the horrific stabbing, we are still investigating the scene, but police say that there's definitely ties to
The man turns off the TV, and he sits there, looking depressed. He then walks down the hall into this room. As he opens the closet door, and he finds some rope, and he then ties it to his ceiling. As we see this man gets up on a chair, he puts the rope around his neck and lets go. As we see this man kill himself, as we hear TV static in the background, as this man ends his life.
House in New Orleans they call the rising sun, and it's been the ruin of many a poor boy. My mother was a tailor. She sewed my new blue jeans. My father was a gambling man down in New Orleans.
We see Alisa standing in front of the mirror as she is washing her hands, but then she She hears a loud noise from outside as she hears the battle going on from outside. Alisa looks scared, but then we see someone walking into the bathroom as we then see a Pirello with a gun as they say, "Hey there, Alisa. You can try to resist, or you could come with me. Them knowing that we have you gives Carlos one hell of an advantage, which may just be the one he needs." He slowly starts walking and moving towards her, but then she goes for the gun and he fires a few shots and misses. She pushes him, but then he hits her and she falls down on the floor. She then is down, but then she grabs a knife out of her pocket as she then stabs him in the throat over and over again as the blood goes all over the floor. She backs up against the wall as she just then sits there covered in blood as we see her breathing heavily in a panic. Oh God, oh God, oh God, no, 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 no. We see she's still just sitting there in shock of what she just did. As Alisa is covered in blood, she then says, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." As we see Vito says, "He attacked you. You defended yourself? We'll cover this up like the rest." Alisa says, "What happened out there?" Vito says, "Carlos betrayed us." Alisa looks surprised and says, "Wait, what? How did he?" Vito says, "We don't know. We don't know. All we know is that he made us work for them. And now we work for them going forward. At least for now. I didn't have a choice, baby girl. I didn't. They were killing us out there." Alisa is about to say more, but then we hear police sirens coming from far as he says, "We can talk about this later. We gotta go, Sweet Pea. Come on." As we see all of the Cashers walk out of the mansion, as they then see a bunch of dead bodies on the ground of the civilians that got killed during the party. As we see all these innocent people that were killed, as we then see Marty says, "These people were innocent. This can't go unanswered, Don." Vito says, "I know, damn it, I know." Dario says, "I can't believe Carlos would do this to us. Next time I get my chance, I'm gonna strangle him with my bare hands." Vito says, "We can place blame later. Come on, let's go before the cops get here." As we see Vito, Alisa, Caroline, Marty, Dario, Johnny, and the others all flee from the mansion as they leave and run as fast as they can. A few minutes later, we see Harold and some other police officers pulling into the mansion. As we see they've all put their guns out as they then storm through the house looking for any survivors. We see Harold looks worried as he looks at one of the dead bodies on the ground and says, "There was a struggle here. By the looks of it, they might have been." One of the officers rudely interrupts him and says, "This whole area is a crime scene. Find the source of this." Harold says, "Got it, sir." Harold looks slightly worried as he recognizes some of the dead people are Vito's men that Carlos has now killed, as Harold looks very concerned by seeing this. Back with Alisa and Vito. We see them driving as we see Johnny, Dario, Marty, and Caroline in one car, and Alisa and Vito are in another, as Vito is riding with Alisa, and she looks rather freaked out and says, "He attacked me." And Vito says, "Listen, I know it was self-defense. You don't have to explain yourself to me, but This can't be said to anyone around. You got it? We have to keep our image as clean as possible. You understand that? Alisa says, yes. I'm sorry, Dad. Vito says, it's okay. Alisa says, I'm not talking about what happened tonight. I'm talking about before. I betrayed your trust. I disappointed you, Vito says. No, sweet pea. You would never disappoint me. Ever. Listen, you and Harold, you two are the best things that have ever happened to me. When you were 5, I saw what your father did to himself. When he took his own life. He took his own life because he was being hunted by those horrible people. And I knew that I couldn't leave you behind. My men said no, and I insisted, because I saw a wonderful little angel in there. Still do. You can never disappoint me. Don't ever forget that. We see them pulling into Caroline's house as they let her out, as Alisa and Caroline get brought back safely, as Alisa says, thanks, Dad. Vito says, no problem. Hey, listen. It's gonna get dangerous around here for the next little while, so for now I'm keeping you out of it, until I can figure out how to deal with Carlos. I hope you understand. Alisa says, I understand, Dad. Be safe. Vito says, I bet on it, sweet pea. I bet on it. Later on, we see Harold driving his police car, as he then stops and pulls over to the side of the road. He stops at a payphone and is calling someone, as he says, Hey, what the hell happened? He whispers, There's fucking bodies everywhere. Cops all over the place. Some big-ass fucking crime scene. And they are literally investigating it right fucking now as we speak. What the hell am I supposed to do here? Vito is revealed to be on the other end and says, Meet me at the Lincoln Road behind Pizza to Go. Back alleyway. We'll discuss this in private. Harold says, I'm coming. We see Vito waiting in this alleyway as he hears, Dad? Vito turns around to Harold and Harold says, What the hell happened? Vito says, Carlos. That's what happened, son. Harold says, Carlos? Wait, that loudmouth pain in the ass, Carlos? Vito says, He's been a rat this whole fucking time. And I didn't see it. He came into our party, and he killed several of us. Harold says, Yeah, that party that you didn't even let me go to. Revealing Vito is why Harold didn't show up in the first place. Harold says, Alisa, Caroline, my unborn child, are they okay? Vito says, They're okay, son. I brought them home after it was all over, but I didn't want to involve them in any more than they already were. Harold looks relieved that they're okay and says, Shit. Well, did Carlos by chance ever leave you some spiral sign at this party? Vito says, No. Why? Harold says, Alright, never mind. Just a case we're working on with me and the officers. Vito says, Why would you ask? Harold says, Like I said, we're working on this case. I've been seeing them plastered all over town. Figured maybe Carlos knew something about it. Vito says, Harold, Carlos has us under his boot, okay? And I'm trying to figure this out. I'm gonna get us out of this, but for now, you will need to cover this up. You understand? Harold says, Don, do you realize the type of shit and type of hot water that I'm in by covering up something like this? I could lose everything, you understand? So could you if I'm not careful. Vito says, Then you better be careful. He starts walking away and Harold looks pissed and says, Why didn't you want me at that party? Vito looks back and says, It's nothing personal, son. You know I care about you. But a Mafia Don cannot be seen with his black adopted son, especially at his headquarters. I thought you understood that. Too many people would have a problem with it. It's not personal, son. It's just the business. Harold says, Ha, really? You really want to handle business? You really want to handle business as much as you say you do? Try not to let your own die. And now I have to risk my job. I have to risk my career over this shit. And Alisa, she stays with me until this whole thing with Carlos is finished. Harold starts walking away, and Vito says, "Hey, there's one more thing." Harold looks pissed and says, "What?" Vito says, "Alisa. I'm worried about her. She hadn't seemed right ever since she got out of there. And maybe even before. I'm asking you, you keep tabs on her for me." Harold looks discouraged and says, "What did she do?" Vito says, "She killed someone at the party. I think it was self-defense. I'm betting on it with my life, but I'm not 100% sure. So I'm asking you to keep an eye on her until this whole thing blows over." Harold says, "Fine, but if the law catches up to her, or you for that matter, I can't promise I'm going to be able to stop everything." Vito looks pissed and says, "You'll make it happen. I made everything happen for you from the second I found you that day. And don't you forget, your father wasn't there for you during all this. I was." As he walks away, confirming he was taken in and adopted by Vito. As we see them go their separate ways, as Harold looks stressed out. Back with Alisa. We see her cleaning herself off in the bathroom as she's taking the blood off of her shirt. As she hears the front door opening, we then see Harold is home as he's hugging Caroline and he says, "You both okay?" "I heard what happened," Alisa says. Yeah, we're both fine." "Where the hell were you anyway?" Harold says, Just working really bad hours. I'm the new guy there, so I'm always handed the short end of the stick around here." Caroline says, "Well, they're overworking you, and I don't like it." Harold says, "You're both okay though, right? Nothing happened to the baby?" Caroline says, No, the baby's fine." As Harold gets back, as we see, he looks relieved to see they're both okay. Downtown Nashville. We see Marty going home for the night. As we see, he says, "Hey, sorry I'm late." We see his wife turns the lights on and says, "Damn, I was worried about you. I didn't know if something had happened." Marty says, "Well, to tell you the truth, a lot of things happen. I'd rather not go into the specifics. But tomorrow should be an interesting day, I'll say that." We see this woman walks out. As we see, she's got no hair. And he says, How did your appointment go?" She says, "Fine. Should still be here for a few more months. Here's hoping." Marty just looks lost and he hugs her and says, "It's okay, Sam. You're strong. You hear me? Fuck, you're so fucking strong. Is there anything I can do for you?" She says, "Just stay. Please, just stay one night. Please?" Marty says, "Don't worry. I'm not going anywhere." Confirming his wife has cancer. Back with Alisa. We see her getting rid of her old bloody clothes as she hears a knock at the door. As Harold walks in and says, "We need to talk," Alisa says, "Okay. About what?" Harold says, "I know you killed someone." Alisa says, "Oh yeah? And I went to jail for..." Harold says, "No, not that. At the party." Alisa puts two and two together and says, "Dad told you." But wait, if you weren't at the party, and you somehow know I killed someone, then someone would have had to tell you what happened. Harold says, "Don't change the topic, sis. I love you, I do. But I'm doing this because I love you." "But you can't just kill random people," Alisa says. "He attacked me." Harold says, "I know he did, and I know that it's not fair, and I know that this isn't the right thing to do. But this is not the right path to go down. You understand that? If you kill people who try to hurt you, to save others, or whatever reason you may have, you're only going to set yourself up for failure. And one day, our Father won't be able to help us out of these situations anymore, and we will have to fend for our goddamn selves, because that day is coming. So please, don't ruin your life. Don't ruin yourself more than you already have. Because it isn't fair, Alisa says. Do you want to talk about fair? You're a police officer. Look at you, a great one at that. And yet you're treated like a joke to your colleagues. I mean, if they told you to jump, you'd say how high. I mean, you're not exactly the role model either, Harold says. Don't you dare say what I'm doing isn't right. The law was the one chance I had. The one chance for me to do something I was actually good at. Maybe they don't treat me right, maybe they screw me over for certain jobs, and maybe they don't even pay attention and act like I'm even there. But I put food on the table for my wife and my kid that's gonna be born, and I'm making sure that I make something out of myself before I'm a father. Meanwhile, you were just sitting in a cell paying for something that you may or may not have done. And by the looks of what happened tonight, I have a very good feeling that that was not your first kill. Alisa says it was self-defense. Oh, and I'm so sorry that I'm such a mess that you can't even be seen at a damn party with me because you're so embarrassed to call me your sister. We may not be blood, Harold, but we are family. Get that through your head. And family sticks together no matter what. I don't care what the reason is. I don't care if you want to be seen with me. We are both a joke in our own manner. We are both doing things that we shouldn't be doing. I would die for you, and you know that. And I would die for Dad. But this life, this isn't sustainable for me or for you, and it needs to change, Harold says. My race, your gender, that is sustainable for us. Because it's this or death. He walks out of the room as Alisa just stands there because she knows he's right, and she starts to break down. Later on, we see Johnny standing outside of a restaurant. As he then walks in, we see him sitting down in a booth. As we then see, he's taking his order. As he's ordering, he then sees this young kid getting beat up by these men outside of the restaurant as he says, "Hang on, stay, I'll be right back." He then walks out to see these two guys beating up this kid, as we then hear them saying, "White trash! Yeah, get him, get him!" We then see Johnny grabs one of the guys and punches him twice and kicks him down as the guy falls. He takes the other guy and trips him, as he then hits his head on a pipe as the guy falls and smashes his teeth on the pipe. These guys get back up and Johnny says, "Get the fuck out of here! Go!" He walks up to this boy and says, "Hey, you alright, kid?" The kid gets up and says, Yeah. These assholes came up and started beating me up for nothing. I think they wanted my money. These guys were trying to prove something, I guess. I don't fucking know." Johnny says, "Yeah, well, it isn't right. Now I hope after this you're heading home, young man. And if I do see you around here again, I better not see you get into any other fights, you understand?" The kid says, "Yeah, thank you, sir." Johnny says, "Johnny, you can call me Johnny." The kid says, "I'm Eric." Johnny says, "Well, good to meet you, Eric. You take care of yourself, alright?" As they then go their separate ways. The next day, we see Harold pulling into the police station. As he then looks hesitant, but then he walks over to the phone booth and calls someone. We hear a voice saying, "Hey, whoever this is, I don't want your product, alright, motherfucker?" Harold says, "Dad?" The man's voice starts to lower and he says, "Where are you?" Harold says, "We need to meet. Some terrible shit's going on, and I need to speak to you." Back with Vito. We see him driving up to a casino as he then enters, as we then see a thriving casino, as one of the guys then says, "Welcome home, Don. Right this way." They go upstairs as we then see Dario, Marty, and some of his men, as a woman then says, Oh my god. We heard what happened. Are you alright, Don? Vito says, I'm fine. We have a major problem on our hands here, gentlemen. The woman says, what is it, Don? Vito says, Carlos. He turned on us. Executed Freebo, Tess, and so many others gone. And now, we have a week to get Carlos what he wants. Dario says, ain't no fucking way. Plus, we got a whole bunch of other shit to do. Marty says, yeah, well, today is also the day Todd gives us the next shipment. Dario says, we can travel out, boss. Get it done? Vito says, yeah, but bring backup. We don't need any more of the Casher's family falling. Dario and Marty look at each other, and Marty says, we will return by the end of the day, boss. As we then see them take off. They walk downstairs as we see Johnny walks up to them and says, hey, whoa, where are you two needle dicks off to? Marty says, off to see Todd and the Rascals. Johnny says, wow, that fucking soon, eh? Really, that fucking prick? Dario smiles and says, yeah, you wanna come? Johnny says, you got room for one more? Dario says, hell yeah. As they then leave the casino together to go see Todd and the Rascals. Later on, we see a shoe shop as we see these men shining people's shoes on the side of the street outside of the building. Inside and out back the shop is a small apartment as we see a man sitting down listening to classical music. As we then see him sipping a drink as we hear a knock at the door. He says, come in. We see Harold walks in and says, Dad, what the hell? You're back on the sauce, aren't you? He says, hey, your old man's been under a lot of stress lately. Hell, besides, you don't come by anymore? Harold says, yeah, I'm sorry. I just been under a lot of pressure lately. The dad says, oh, I heard. I heard about what the Cashers got involved in. I also heard what Alisa did. Harold says, yeah, I don't know what's going on with her. What I don't know is why you told me to get into this life to begin with. The dad says, boy, you know why I had to. You know why you're a Casher now. People like us, people of our kind, people of our color, the world isn't fair to people like us. You had big dreams, son, and look at you. You finally got there. Harold sits down and says, I don't feel like I got anywhere. He pours him a drink and Harold says, no, I'm on the clock, I can't. The dad says, well, suit yourself. Listen, you ain't the only one going through something. Harold looks worried and says, what is it? He says, business ain't been cutting it lately, son. So I may have had to improvise a little bit. I tried robbing a few places of my own. One of them belonged to a group named the Pirellos. Harold looks worried and his dad says, when they found out that I took half of my share from my business, which was already low to begin with, and they said that they would take more from me the next time. And if I didn't have it, then they would make an example out of me and burn my business right down to the ground. That was a threat or a promise, either one. Harold says, the Pirellos, those are the same people that have been coming after the Cashers. The dad says, yeah? And this Carlos guy, he's an intense motherfucker, I'll tell you that. And whether they do come in and take their next share, I don't know what the hell I'm gonna do, so I'm trapped between a rock and a hard place, man. Harold asks, what would have happened if I didn't call you earlier? The dad says, I don't know, but I thought it was for your own safety if I kept you out of it. Still for your own safety that nobody knows that we're talking anymore, or that nobody knows that you're even my son. I still do think that's the better option. Harold says, I just don't know what the hell I'm gonna do. I can't keep track of everyone. I mean, I'm about to be a father for crying out loud. I'm finally making something for myself, financially. We're not struggling anymore. But these cops on this force, they make me do their dirty work. I mean, I can't count how many times I've been caught in the middle of a shootout, and every time I try to get back up, they do not come. And I just sit there wondering if I'm gonna get my ticket punched in. or if I will live to fight another day. Is it because I'm black? Is that why they don't help me? That I'm some kind of joke to these people? Having a black officer on the force, I get it's against the rules. I get it's against all policy. But they accepted me because I did the job properly. And now they want to throw me under the bus like I don't mean a goddamn thing. So I don't know if I would get my ticket punched in, but all I know so far is that I have a son coming. And I do not want to screw up this opportunity for whatever he does in his life. I want to give him a chance to be what he wants to be in life without his race, without his color changing a fucking difference. The dad says, yeah, and you have a chance here to make it right. So don't waste it. Don't waste it like I did, son. Harold says, I gotta go, Dad. He hugs him and says, take care of yourself, alright? The dad says, yeah, you too. Later on, we see Vito walking through the casino as he walks out to the parking lot. As he then walks towards his car, as we can then see, there is two men in suits watching him from far. Vito sees this and gets in his car. He looks through the rearview mirror. As he then sees these men are just standing there watching him. He looks pissed off, as he then knows he's being watched by Carlos, as he then drives away in anger. Back with Dario, Johnny, and Marty. We then see them driving far out outside of Nashville. As we then see them driving, as we then see over 20 men driving from behind, Johnny says, you boys think Carlos was the only spy within our Casher family? Dario says, oh Jesus, Johnny. Now why the fuck would you have to put that idea in our fucking heads? Johnny says, nah, I'm just saying. You never know. I mean, you're talking to the devil on your shoulder. Sometimes you don't know he's there. Marty says, nah. Carlos was good, but we won't let that shit happen again. We see their vehicles on the end of the road, as we then see other vehicles on the other end of the road. We see Todd and the Rascals coming out of their vehicles, as Marty says, Todd, you have your next offering. Todd says, where's Vito? We were expecting him to be here. Dario says, he isn't here right now. We've had our complications with a few other situations. The business has had a few struggles as of late. We are dealing with it. But for now, we hope that you are willing to comply with the usual, Todd. Todd says, I asked Vito if I could skip the meeting. He said that he would see what he could do. He said he would think about it. We are running low here. I was hoping, for old time's sake, we would be able to come to a better agreement. Johnny says, the deal looks like it's done to me. The guns we've asked you for, you hand it over to us now. Or, this will escalate into something different. We both know that I like something different. Todd then looks back at his men. But then, out of nowhere, a bunch of Cashers get gunned down. Marty, Dario, and Johnny raise their guns as they then see multiple men come out of the woods and point their guns towards the Cashers. As then Todd looks at Marty, Dario, and Johnny and says, the Pirellos send their regards. As they load their guns at each other and stand off. Back in Nashville, we see Harold getting back to the station as he sees a bunch of police tape everywhere. As he then sees the officers all standing in a group, as we then see Harold pushes through the crowd to then see there is 2 dead bodies that have been skinned alive. They all look horrified. As Harold then looks up to see, The same spiral painted on the wall, as he then stands there looking horrified as he wonders what this means.
Tomorrow, so I hear the clouds will disappear. The door to happiness.
Back with Alisa, we see her folding laundry as we then hear screams coming from the living room. She then runs out to see water on the floor. She sees Caroline, as Caroline says, "Alisa?" She looks scared and says, "I think the baby's coming." Alisa looks nervous, as does Caroline, as they stand there in a panic.
For if your love is gone, how can I face the dawn of Sunday or Monday? I just
We then
can't
see
face one
Todd
day
and his people pointing guns at Marty, Dario, and Johnny, as Marty then looks at them with an angry look on his face as he stands there and clicks his gun.
want to face tomorrow unless I see it with you.
Tomorrow, so I hear the clouds will disappear. The door to happiness will open wide.
But I don't want to see tomorrow unless I see it with